This is the Norris Group's Real Estate Investor Radio Show, the award-winning show dedicated to thought leaders shaping the real estate industry and local experts revealing their insider tips to succeed in an ever-changing real estate market. Hosted by author, investor, and hard money lender, Bruce Norris.
Hey everybody, it's Aaron Norris with the Norris Group, and we are back today with Meredith Stowers. She is with CrossCountry Mortgage and ADUloans.net, talking today about ADUs, SB9 and SB10. Let's get to it. In your experience, I'm just curious, this is a question I don't know. Are people updating the primary residence as well at the same time?
Oftentimes, okay. And there's a lot of good tips and tricks. If, for example, you have to add solar in California to the detached ADU. So add solar to the whole home and include the cost of electricity in your rents. One of my clients who lives on the property bought an electric vehicle, and he's joking that his renters are paying for his gas too. So there's a lot of good. There are some people who are condotizing those ADUs. They're creating a mini HOA and selling off those properties in order to pay for the primary home. The main reason for SB9 is really if you can't build enough lots, like if you're in an area that only allows 1 or 2 ADUs, you can split the lot to add additional ADUs. And so I've seen a traditional single family home, and ultimately after 2 lot splits and a bunch of ADUs, you can get about 7 extra units on the property, and it's cash flowing $10,000-15,000 a month.
Wow.
So yeah.
How has COVID changed the loan programs? Does it make you nervous? Is construction taking a little bit longer? Supply chain disruption?
Yeah, so construction's definitely taking longer. All the contractors are built up and the prices have gone up. 2 years ago, we could build a standalone ADU for about a base amount of $150,000, and now I haven't seen anything for a while that's less than $300,000.
Wow.
I know the cost. But here's what's really interesting, and it starts with the question: why do we build with wood and cement? Why? Because it's just, we've always done it. And so now we have these really interesting prefab manufacturers coming out with recycled materials that are fireproof up to 500 degrees and really beautiful designs. One of the designs that I'm looking at is through a company called CNN Modular, and I'm actually looking at bringing it out to my Florida property. But a 2-bedroom, 1 bath is $185,000.
Wow.
I know. It has no foundation, and it can be set up in 4 days. It has no wood to it. It's all recycled material that's fireproof up to 500 degrees. And then so when you get it out there, it's up on posts, so it does not even have to be even land. And you need to connect the utilities. So your main costs are the utilities.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because early on in the process, manufactured homes have always been allowed, but we were told that lenders do not like mixed inventory. If you had a primary that was stick built and the ADU was a manufactured home, a lot of lenders would just ignore the ADU. They're like, nope, we don't like Title 24 and Title 25 existing on the same lot.
Yeah, so now Fannie's rules are you can have a manufactured ADU, and they have clarified with the lenders, we will finance those. Right now, my company, for example, is not allowing that because there's a 12-month backlog on manufactured homes.
Okay.
And they don't want to carry it on their warehouse for that long. But overall, I'm actually come around. The manufactured homes are pretty darn amazing if you can get the turn times down. Yeah. I've even seen in homeowners associations where you have to be matchy-matchy. People will come in and plop down a double wide 1,200 square foot. And then even though structurally they don't need it, they will stucco and roof tile it to match the primary house. And you really can't tell much of a difference. It is amazing.
We asked the NEHB when they were on the radio show, like, why haven't we heard more about, this plant manufacturing? Because it's green, it's in more robotics.
Yes.
And the quality of some manufactured homes can actually be better than stick built because we have a shortage of skilled labor. So,
yes, and earthquake resonance. That's important.
Now you separated manufacturing from modular. Modular is, for the sake of California, does modular, it falls under Title 24 because it's attached to the ground the right way? Like, how does that work?
So modular, the way that in mortgage jargon we define it is it permitted by the local housing agency? That's the key. Oftentimes, modular they're predominantly manufactured in a factory and then brought to the site. In most cases, we call it panelized modular. So this is where you build an entire wall and they physically walk the wall onto the property and put it together. Yeah, but there's other places like Abodu and Diggs where they build the entire stick-built house in the factory and physically plop it right onto the thing. And that keeps the contractors walking around your yard for a year.
Right. It stops the NIMBYs from even knowing what's happening until it's too late. There's so many benefits I can think of.
Yeah. The really exciting thing now is the 3D printed homes. And there's an entire subdivision of 3D printed homes. And those can be built as quickly as one day.
But that's the structure itself. I got to be honest with you. I'm not that excited because I see that happen in Florida all the time. They put the blocks up in one day. I'm like, you still have all the finish work and you're going to have the specialty trades. Like, I think I'm more excited about facilities, the wall pack stuff. I think that might be more interesting. I do, however, the mighty buildings that do the 3D printed homes, what they're doing is they're taking a very how they build cruise ships. They're doing modular, and so they're bringing people who do bathrooms, and the bathroom people just drop off and they plug and play. I love that the modular is sort of married with the 3D printing. I think it's valuable, but I don't know, Icon. It'll be interesting to see. Let's see what Icon does with Lennar out in Austin to see if it really cuts down on time, because I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. I know, I will be too, but it's a good movement to force costs down and have better quality stuff out there for sure.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see if that's one of the benefits. So the appraisals, okay, the boxable and some of these ones that fold out, you don't care as long as what are you looking for?
We do. A lot of the and the boxable guys are kind of mad at me because we do ADU loans. There's been a blurring of tiny homes or tiny ADUs and tiny homes on wheels. And that's an important distinction. And you nailed it earlier. The tiny homes on wheels are permitted by the DMV, just like an RV. I can't finance that. I have to finance something that is permitted. It must be permitted, and it's fixed onto a local foundation. So the boxable guys do not have the housing insulation to be permittable as a local house. Now in San Diego, it doesn't necessarily matter so much, but in colder areas, do you really want grandma in a cold steel box? And so, I mean, that's the kind of question you actually have to ask.
Is she a nice grandma? Is she a nice grandma? I'm just kidding. Interesting. So in that case, it's the insulation?
Yes, and it's insulation. Some of the other ones, it's fireproofing. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of questions. Bottom line is, if it cannot be past local permit inspections, I can't finance it. Now, there's plenty of people who will happily, because it's so inexpensive, plop that on the property unpermitted. And there's tons of that going on, but I can't finance that unless it's just cash out and here's your money.
So again, this is not a good spray and pray approach. Maybe have a conversation with you before they buy a property.
Yes. And by the way, I mean, tiny home villages and camps are one of the hottest trends right now. That's another thing I was looking on my lot for Florida is having these cute little Airstreams and, all kinds of stuff that I know that you
I'm
can
only
hear.
laughing because it's peak season here. I'm in Florida as we're taping this.
Yeah.
And I try to stay in different parts of where we're building and stuff to just really get the local flavor. Somebody was trying to rent out an Airstream for $350 a night. It's such a racket.
It is such a racket, but people, especially the millennials, think it's as cute as can be. Personally, I like my hotels,
I do too.
but yeah, and then people can also truck in their own, things. So that's a big wanderlust movement that really happened in COVID. Like I swear, half of San Francisco just left town, bought a tiny home, and is traveling around the country. Rents went down in San Francisco 20%.
Did it really?
Yeah, it was really bad. Yeah.
Oh.
And we actually flew out to Nashville, and there were a ton of millennials working from the hotel and just traveling around the country during COVID.
It's so weird, different markets, even in California. Like we did not have that experience in the Inland Empire. Rents
Right.
have been raging.
Right.
Because we have a lot of people from the coast seeing like, I don't have to live in these expensive markets. And so they're coming inland.
Yes.
It's uncomfortable actually how much prices have increased, both equity and rent. So
Yeah.
do you have a list of manufacturers that you trust and you work with and they're already almost pre-approved, if you will?
I do. I
Okay.
do. You can see most of those on the aducoalition.org. That's kind of a curated group. I'm on that board, and that's a pretty curated group of people, but there's more. We do, when we work with them, we work with licensed GCs, but I'm a big fan of going with somebody who has done ADUs over and over again, because they are unique rules, and you don't want to be somebody's guinea pig.
Does design matter to you? If somebody's just built something or is planning on building something terrible, or you're like, I'm not interested in financing that?
I mean, it's got to be permittable, but design does matter in quite a bit in cost. So, for example, if you hire an architect, sometimes we see some crazy roof lines that don't make sense. It's really important to have one wet wall, and because that will save you a ton of cost. And another thing we're looking at is oftentimes the 1-bedroom units. So if you can build a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit, you can either rent that for say $2,500, $3,000, or you can, once permit's approved, split them off, add a little kitchenette. Now you've got 2 1-bedrooms that each rent for $2,000 each or more. And so sometimes the multi 1-bedrooms make all the sense in the world. In the college areas where they rent by the room, they don't rent to groups of kids anymore. So $1,500 to $1,800 per room. I'm looking at people building basically micro rooms, 6 micro rooms in a 1,200 square foot ADU with 1 bedroom and 1 tiny kitchenette. Because really, when you were in college, did you really use the kitchen? No, you didn't. Right? So why spend all that space? So design really matters, and it actually starts with looking, where's your top rental income going to come from?
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know why California hasn't, like New York, after living in New York and going to school there, they have a lot of different types of housing where they have the dormitory style for adults as well, where you're sharing a bathroom with the entire floor. We just need that kind of, we just don't have a good housing mix. It's just impossible. I feel really bad for, how are our kids going to get in? It's a little nuts.
Yeah, and we just got to be more flexible. Yeah.
When it comes to supply chain disruption and price increases, I mean, this is coming out of the woodwork, and you've already done a loan. How are the owners typically dealing with that?
So when we have that first real set of inflation, so my renovation loans by loan guidelines are required to have a 10% buffer. And that's really kind of been the magic number. I've yet to have a loan surpass that, even in high inflationary times. So if you're doing a cash out or using other financing, I do recommend find out if the contractors added a buffer, because sometimes they quietly do, but make sure you add a 10% buffer in case of cost overruns, for sure.
That's a great idea. I mean, with appliances and windows and certain features, it's taking forever too. I don't know. Trying to think of what else I need to ask on the ADUs. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of the loan. Do you leave the first in place and do a second that's the construction loan? Or are you refinancing the entire property?
No, my construction loans are a refinance of the first mortgage, because to get a low interest rate, you have to secure the primary property. We don't even allow subordination of seconds or solar loans or anything else. Nothing. The only lien on the property can be the renovation loan. Your follow-on option, I know that there's some lenders out there with HELOC products, but those products are like 9-10%. For that, I'd rather go hard money, potentially. So, I don't know.
Actually, my best friend is actually thinking he's up in Santa Clarita, and it's easier for him to build something out than it is to look for a new property. It's just so nuts up there. And he's looking at adding square footage to his property. So that was use refinance and then pull the money out. But most lenders that he's talking to, there's a maximum of 100,000. So you can do more, obviously.
Yeah, I can do a lot more. Absolutely. I have my maximum is 80% loan to value on the cash out. And your first mortgage is always going to be your lowest rate, and you get the tax deductibility in a far better way than you do with a HELOC. Most people don't know that the HELOCs are no longer largely tax deductible. So
interesting. Okay. And then once the accessory dwelling unit gets a CO, it just is a regular loan.
Yeah. Unless you have multiple ADUs on it, then it's going to be a non-QM, meaning non-traditional. So you might have a quarter point higher. Big deal. Fannie Mae is pulling out of that market, but I have some great non-QM lender banks coming into the market.
What's the rate right now for owner occupants who are doing these?
Owner occupants, so we treat them as a cash out loan. Some lenders will really put a premium price on that. We don't. We treat them equivalent to a cash out. So rates are up right now. So cash outs on an owner occupied is like 4.4 or something like that at par. But whatever a cash out refinance is right now, that's what we're doing as a renovation loan.
How much money should they expect to have in the deal to make it work?
The main issue is the upfront costs. Great question. So I typically see permit designs being anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, even as high as $40,000. And that's where it's super important. There are so many floor plans on the marketplace that it makes sense. And ADUs are mostly boxes anyway. So use one of the floor plans, talk to that architect, and have them modify it to your particular property. Some of the ADU builders out there have in-house draftsmen. Ironically, some working abroad, a bunch of Ukrainians to a large degree, who are architecturally modifying those designs in a very inexpensive way. So you can save a fortune on that. And then you submit for permits, and your usually cost for submitting is not that much, maybe a couple hundred, couple thousand. It's when the permits get back and are done that you're probably going to need to pay more. You're going to need to pay, depending on the location, it's anywhere between $2,000 to $20,000. So some places that really don't want ADUs, like Chula Vista, California, Coronado, some places up north in the Bay Area, they're charging large impact fees for schools and other things, whereas pro-housing cities like San Diego, Pasadena are waiving those impact fees. It makes a big difference where you buy.
Now, if you build 750 square feet or smaller, they can't charge that, right?
Yeah, maybe.
They're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to. But
I
yeah,
I
so
think
it depends.
there's been
This is,
several examples of that where they're being told something that's not true when you go to local building departments, whether they know or they don't know. They're telling you a fib. I don't know.
well, and that's why it really matters what contractor you're working with, because are you going to go with a guy who really doesn't know and says, "Oh, okay, my God, guy, I'll pay 12,000 for that, sure," or a guy who says, "Well, very sweetly, actually, state law says."
Hey, that could mean a lot of money. So they
Yes,
need to so they need to be prepared to be out of pocket through the permitting process, pretty much.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. That's what I would prepare. We're working on some grant programs for that for owner occupied with the states and housing groups and CalHAFA. But yeah,
Okay. I need to get more plugged in with that because I think there's a bridge to. I'm teaching at the California Mortgage Association later this month and specifically talking about ADUs and SB9. And we need to get more involved and create programs for this
I
because,
have a fabulous idea for you. We'll talk later.
okay, wink. Tell me about
Yeah.
the ADU coalition really fast.
Yeah. So, and actually, it's morphed into the Casita Coalition. So, the Casita Coalition has been predominantly a policy-based group, and it's been merging with the ADU Coalition, which has been really the industry professionals. So, you're going to see around California in April 8th and 9th and 10th. We're hosting homeowner fairs in the Bay Area. We're probably going to do San Diego in October and Los Angeles sometime this summer. And it's really trying to have a curated group of contractors and professionals and walk through these processes. It's really about sharing homeowner information, education, and resources, but it's also best practices within the industry so that we can keep our quality up and our pricing down.
SB9, we've talked about it a little bit. I feel like it's going to go the way of accessory dwelling units if it doesn't have a lot of NIMBY backlash,
Yeah.
where it'll be open for investors. Are you excited about it? What do you think is on the horizon for that?
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. I think it's the only place where pretty much where real estate agents are going to get listings anymore. And so getting good at construction loans is going to be really important. And having that construction mindset where, when you are building, you have to be collaborative because there are obstacles. And the question isn't, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's, how do I fix this? What's the best approach? So I do think that that's going to be a huge new opportunity in California, and looking for those opportunities. If you're out wholesaling or door knocking on properties, I'm telling you, the number one thing you can do is talk to little old ladies who have a huge yard. They own their home in full and they could use the extra cash for retirement. Split their lot and build on it. Absolutely. That's a great source.
I always think of in Property Radar different ways to search. You could certainly search that by how long they've owned the property, but you can also search by how much they're paying in property tax. If it's really low, you know that they've locked it in a long time ago. But you
Yeah.
can also search by demographics and size of the lot and whatnot. There's ways to stack it to easily find it. Lots of different opportunities.
Yeah.
So if Fannie and Freddie are out when it comes to commercial ADUs?
For no, just multifamilies, but on single family homes, they're good to go. I see about a 20% cap rate on single when you add an ADU and JADU on owner occupied. Investor homes can only add one ADU. You're still getting great cash flow. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some really interesting commercial projects where they're doing the underparking, converting those because they wanted to get rid of those anyway. At least the city of Los Angeles did, really focused on getting rid of those and turning those into apartments and sort of reconfiguring where parking is and whatnot. A fourplex where they added above garage units and built the garages that they had never had before. So they had an eightplex. There's multifamily opportunity as well. What are the rates that you're seeing for multifamily?
Huge. To be honest, we're stumbling a little bit on multifamily, and this is where, doing it under someone like you would make a lot of sense, or we've got some fix and flip loans. At above 4 units, you're definitely going commercial, and commercial rates are ultimately at about 5.5%. But honestly, who cares? Because the cash flow is just so good.
But for the sake of permitting, well, it's 4 units plus 4 ADUs, but for the regular financing world, they're seeing that as an 8 unit.
Yes, they're seeing that as an 8 unit. It's the consensus seems to be coming to, above all, no more than 4 total units on a property to keep it residential.
Interesting. Okay, I did not know that. I thought if you had a fourplex and you built 4 ADUs, it still qualified for 1 to 4.
No, that's fallen into commercial.
That's good to know. Okay.
I know, but the 8plexes are worth it. That is by far, you nailed it. It is by far. I think we last calculated that at a 36% cap rate, even with a 5.5% interest rate. So my biggest message to people is stop stressing about your stupid interest rates. Look at the cash flow. Look at the cash flow. So, yeah.
Okay. Do you see this working in any areas or any cities that you just love working with that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, City of San Diego, absolutely no question, with their ADU bonus program. Rumor has it that the City of San Diego or City of LA is going to adopt that. City of LA has an interesting program too, with something called, in an era of COVID rental forbearance, that's always an issue. And so they have something called the ADU Accelerator program, where they will introduce you to 3 seniors, little ladies, to live in the property, and the city pays your rent, but you don't have to lien the property. So it's guaranteed rental income, at subsidized rates, and you got a nice quiet, I mean, I love that. Love that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, San Jose is super pro ADU, although the prices continue to get high. But the Bay Area, and then the West Bay, Oakland is a big ADU area. Those areas have huge lots. And they definitely need some improvement. Having said that, I get concerned about the quality of the primary homes, because those properties were not built particularly well over there.
Interesting. Okay. Well, when I traveled to the Northeast, I saw something about accessory dwelling units. I think a lot of different states are watching. So goes California, so goes the rest of the country. So we'll see. Maybe you'll be very busy doing loans nationwide.
Oh, I hope so. Thanks. I really appreciate it.
Where can we find you if we would like some more information?
Yeah, aduloans.net. I'm just about to launch my 2022 ADU estimator. I have a slightly outdated one up there, but it gives you a sense of cost and return on investment, monthly payments, everything. And we've got a ton of great videos there too.
You're just turning homeowners into investor-minded families. This is great. Pretty soon they're all going to be pro investor. I like it. We're not going to be the sharks anymore.
Absolutely. Well,
Very
thanks
cool.
for all you do, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Of course. And we'll make sure to put all the links in the show notes so people can come and visit. And thank you so much. This was a really important update because it was so different from 2 years ago. All right. Thank you.
For more information on hard money loans and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For information on passive investing with trust deeds, visit tngtrustdeeds.com.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under California DRE License 012-19911, Florida Mortgage Lender License 1577, and NMLS License 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the Hard Money tab.